August 1944. This is not war, it is an apocalypse. For the German 7th Army and 5th Panzer Army, the campaign in France has ceased to be a battle and has become a full-scale, systemic disintegration. The Allied pincer movement, the brutal, grinding result of Operation Cobra, has slammed shut near the town of Falaise. This is not a front line, a fluid concept of attack and defense. It is a Kessel, a cauldron, and inside this shrinking pocket of mud and fire, an entire German army group is being systematically rendered down. What was once the proud, seemingly invincible Wehrmacht, the conquerors of Europe, is now a panicked, terrified mob. They are a mass of men, horses, and shattered machines flowing through a narrow corridor of death, choked with the wreckage of its own ambition. The air itself is a thick, acrid soup of diesel fumes, burning oil, curdite, and the horrifying, sweet, sick, unforgettable smell of death, both human and animal. There is no order. There is no command structure. Radio signals are just static and screams. There is only the primal, desperate instinct to move west, to escape the ring of fire and steel that tightens with every passing hour. Buried deep within this torrent of chaos, hidden in a small, wooded copse just off the main road of slaughter, is a small, battered Instandsetzung unit. They are a repair and maintenance squad from a Panzer Grenadier division that has effectively ceased to exist. These are not fresh-faced infantry. They are the grizzled, cynical, and utterly exhausted mechanics of the Wehrmacht. Their faces are maps of fatigue. Their uniforms are permanently stained black with grease. They are the wizards of wreckage, the unsung heroes who have kept the German war machine limping forward on nothing but welding wire, stolen parts, and a bottomless well of profane ingenuity. Their entire war, from the frozen dust of the Moscow suburbs to the choking dust of North Africa, and now the mud of Normandy, has been a relentless battle against scarcity. They are the masters of making do. Their job is to perform miracles. They can cannibalize 3 broken Opel Blitz trucks to make one that runs for another 50 kilometers. They can fabricate a new gasket from an old leather boot. They've had to. Now, their own repair truck, a heavy-bodied Hork, is wheezing, its radiator leaking from a shrapnel puncture. They are just trying to escape the pocket, salvaging what they can, while keeping one ear tuned to the sky, listening for the most terrifying sound in their world. The high-pitched, hunting whine of the Jabos, the Allied P-47s and Typhoons. They have pulled off the main road, which is nothing but a stationary shooting gallery, and are trying a parallel farm track. The track is littered with the dead, both men and horses, but is mercifully clear of vehicles. They are desperately trying to get a German Opel Blitz, which has thrown a rod, moving again. It's hopeless, and they know it. The Feldwebel, their sergeant, a 40-year-old veteran named Ernst, knows it. He's about to give the order to abandon it when he freezes, holding up a greasy hand for silence. He scans the tree line. He's spotted something, half hidden in a ditch, sitting perfectly level. Is an Allied truck. It's an American GMC CCKW. The famous Dusande. The contrast is shocking. The German road is a graveyard of burning, twisted metal. This American truck is pristine. It is not burning. It is not riddled with holes. It seems to have been simply left behind. 2 men who haven't seen a new German truck from a factory in years. It's a phantom. An unbelievable prize of war. Ernst gestures with his rifle. Cover me. Ernst, the Feldwebel, is a man who trusts nothing, least of all good fortune. He circles the truck, his MP-40 pointed at the cab. His men fan out. He checks for tripwires, for bouncing Betty mines under the seats. Nothing. The silence is unnerving, broken only by the distant, crumping sound of artillery. He checks the tires. They are new, the tread deep and uniform. The canvas cover is intact. He pulls himself up and checks the cab. It's empty. The key is still in the ignition. He turns it. Nothing. A click, but no power. He checks the fuel gauge, and the needle rests hard on empty. This confirms his suspicion. The driver simply ran out of gas, calmly climbed down, and presumably caught a ride on the next truck in the endless convoy. The casualness of it is insulting. The sergeant grunts, a mix of curiosity and professional interest. He doesn't want the whole truck. He wants its heart. He needs a carburetor, a generator, a starter, anything to get his own vehicles moving. He barks an order, and one of his men retrieves a crowbar. With a loud, metallic groan that echoes in the quiet copse, they force the hood latch and lift the heavy steel side panel. The heavy steel hood swings up and clangs into place. The mechanics, men who have lived inside engines for their entire adult lives, peer into the engine bay. And then they freeze. There is a long, stunned, horrified silence. They expected to see what they always saw in their own engines: a rat's nest of wires, caked on grease, rust, and the telltale signs of desperate battlefield repairs: mismatched screws, welded-on patches, wiring held together with friction tape, a fuel line patched with a piece of rubber hose that wasn't designed for it. Instead, they are staring at something that looks like it belongs in a showroom on the Kurfürstendamm in Berlin. The engine block is clean, painted a uniform olive drab. The wires are perfectly routed in neat, rubber-insulated looms, each one stamped with a part number. The distributor cap is unscratched. The rubber hoses are pliable and new, the clamps all identical. There are no oil leaks. There is no rust. But it's the small things that break their minds: every single nut, every bolt head, every screw, every hose clamp is identical. They are all perfectly stamped, mass-produced, and interchangeable. It looks like it has never been touched by a human hand. One of the younger mechanics, a boy named Carl who joined the unit as a replacement in June, opens the passenger side door. He fumbles under the seat and finds the standard issue toolkit. He unrolls the heavy canvas sheet on the truck's fender. The sound rough and loud. The Feldwebel Ernst walks over, his boots heavy in the mud. Inside is not a massive, specialized chest. It is a small, shockingly simple set of high-quality, steel-forged wrenches, a few screwdrivers, and pliers. The tools have a black, parkerized anti-rust finish. They look and feel expensive, but in a simple, functional way. Ernst picks up a wrench. It feels solid, balanced. He walks back to the engine, his mind working, a cold feeling growing in his stomach. He places the wrench on a nut on the water pump. It fits perfectly, with no play. He moves to a different bolt on the manifold. It fits again. He moves to a bolt on the frame itself. It fits again. One simple wrench fits a dozen different applications. It is an act of industrial heresy. Their own vehicles required a chaotic jumble of different-sized, often custom-ground tools. This was simple. A cold dread, heavier and more chilling than the morning fog, begins to creep into Ernst's mind. He thinks of his own depot, his Frankenstein's workshop. His men are forced to keep a chaotic museum of vehicles running. They have Opels from the 30s, Mercedes from the 40s, and Henschels. But that's not the half of it. The Wehrmacht standardization program had been a failure, a casualty of competing corporate interests and Hitler's whims. So, to supplement their losses, they used Buteffar's UJ-captured vehicles. They have French Renaults, Czech Pragas, and Russian Z's trucks. Nothing is interchangeable. A screw from an Opel built in Russelsheim won't fit an Opel built in Brandenburg. The supply chain is a joke, a nightmare of 1,000,000 different parts for 1,000 different vehicles, most of which are no longer in production. His men are artists, not mechanics. They have to be. When a German mechanic in Ernst's unit needs a part, a bearing, a gear, a gasket, it doesn't exist. He cannot order it. The supply depots are empty, if they even exist. He must make it. He must find a similar part from a wrecked vehicle, take it to a field lathe if he's lucky enough to have one, and manually machine it down, checking the tolerance with worn-out calipers. He must file the gear teeth by hand until it fits. He rethreads stripped bolt holes. He uses leather from an old boot for a gasket, hoping it holds. He needs a dozen different, often custom-ground, wrench sets for a single German engine. His job is not repair. It is a desperate, time-consuming, artisan-level craft. These men are sculptors of steel, and they take a grim, perverse pride in their ability to solve the impossible, to make the dead machines run. It is their art, their curse, and their only form of defiance. Ernst looks back at the American truck. This is different. This is a different philosophy, a different world. This engine wasn't built for master craftsmen. It wasn't built for a man with 20 years of experience like him. It was built for a farm boy from Iowa or a factory worker from Detroit who was given a 6-week training course. It was designed from the ground up to be fixed quickly and easily by anyone using a simple, standard set of tools and a simple, clear manual. The philosophy is completely alien. The American mechanic isn't expected to fix the broken fuel pump. He's not expected to be a genius. He's expected to unbolt it, throw it in a ditch, and bolt on a brand new one from a crate full of brand new fuel pumps. Germany used its most skilled men to fix its failing machines. America built machines that didn't need skilled men. Then, the truly terrifying realization hits them, all at once. Ernst feels a pit in his stomach so cold it almost makes him nauseous. This truck is not special. This is not a general's personal vehicle. This is the standard. This pristine engine. The simple tool kit. It's the same for every single truck. The casual, almost wasteful abundance is staggering. The Americans hadn't just built one good truck. They had built over 500,000 of them. This truck was a single drop of water from an ocean. The one they were looking at, abandoned for lack of fuel, was as common and disposable as a single rifle cartridge. It was a sign not of weakness, but of unimaginable, terrifying, planet-spanning power. They were facing an enemy who could afford to abandon a brand new truck. This 2.5-ton truck was the arsenal of democracy made real, made steel. It was the physical manifestation of the speech. Ernst understood engineering. He respected the German Panther and Tiger tanks. They were cathedrals of engineering, masterpieces of steel, but they were also complex, fuel-hungry, required hundreds of thousands of man-hours to build, and broke down constantly. They were masterpieces that were also logistical black holes, requiring a team of factory specialists to maintain. The Americans, with their Sherman tank, they mocked it, called it a Ronson because it lit up so easily. But for every one of their Tigers, the Americans had 5 Shermans, and those Shermans ran. They were simple, they were reliable, and they were everywhere. This truck was the steel and rubber proof. The war was not a contest of a few perfect, expensive masterpieces. It was a war of output, a war of attrition, and the German mechanics were on the wrong side of the equation. Ernst and his men understood logistics better than any general. They knew an army moved on its stomach, and its panzers moved on fuel. Their own advance had ground to a halt in Russia for lack of it. Their panzers in Normandy, superior as they were immobile for the same reason. Now, they were witnessing the Allied logistical miracle, an endless, 24-hour supply line. The Red Ball Express was feeding the front. Thousands of trucks just like this one, running day and night, were creating a non-stop river of fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and even cigarettes and chocolate. The Americans were burning fuel at a rate the Germans couldn't even comprehend. Just to move more fuel, it was an equation that defied all of their experience. They were fighting a river. You cannot fight a river. And what did they have? Ernst almost laughed. A dry, bitter sound. The German army in 1944, the supposed technological marvel of the world, was still critically reliant on horses. Over 1 million of them were still in service, hauling artillery, supplies, and men. Their own supply columns were a pathetic, medieval mix of high-tech panzers and hay wagons. He had seen them on the main road, the dead horses tangled in their harnesses, their bodies bloated, lying next to the burned-out hulls of Panther tanks, their mighty King Tiger tanks, the most powerful in the world, were being abandoned by the dozen all over the battlefield, completely out of fuel. They were trying to fight an industrial war with a 19th century supply line. They had created the most complex, beautiful, and deadly tanks in the world, and they had no way to get fuel or spare parts to them. Ernst the Feldwebel looks down at the perfect, simple, American-made wrench in his hand. He then looks at his own hands, calloused and black with grime. Hands that could build an engine from scrap. Hands that could file a bearing by moonlight. Hands that had kept a battalion fighting for 2 years longer than it should have. He realizes, with a sickening, hollow clarity, that his skill, his experience, his craft, it is all completely, utterly useless. It is obsolete. They are master violin makers in a war against a record factory. His genius is a symptom of a failed system. The American simplicity is the weapon that is actually winning the war. They haven't been fighting an army, they have been fighting a factory. And the factory is indefatigable, inhuman, and it has already won. Ernst drops the wrench in the dirt as if it were burning him. It lands with a soft, heavy thud. He waves to his men, a gesture of complete, bone-weary defeat. Calm, he mutters, leave it. The young mechanic, Karl, looks confused. But Feldwebel, the parts. Ernst shakes his head. What's the point? He asks, to no one in particular. They wouldn't fit. That's the final, bitter irony. The very standardization that made the American army a colossus also made its components useless. To them, they can't even salvage it. They leave the truck in the ditch, a 2.5-ton tombstone, a monument to a war they had already lost. They begin walking, just 3 more ghosts in the collapse of an army. Their own broken truck left behind. The Second World War would be decided on the battlefields, but it was won in the factories. That abandoned GMC was a 2.5-ton envoy, delivering the simple, crushing, mechanical verdict of inevitable defeat. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, hit the like button and subscribe for more daily videos.